Hello and welcome to the Queen Elizabeth Patient Podcast. We're here today to discuss meditation. I'm with Dr. Peter Blackburn. He is an NHS consultant in clinical psychology and has worked in oncology, palliative care services in the last 10 years. And he's got a very good way of explaining what meditation is to the novices like myself, and he's going to talk us through this.
Thank you for asking me. Yes, in the previous podcast, we looked at what it is to meditate. In this podcast, we're going to actually practice. So the meditation we're going to practice shortly is really either an intermediate level or advanced level meditation, because we're going to sit with uncertainty. And as we discussed in the previous podcast, uncertainty can be really powerful and become quite distressing, anxiety provoking for people, and they want to try and get rid of it. They try their best, they worry about whatever it is in the hope that it gets rid of this uncertainty, but all it does is create more uncertainty. And actually being with it and learning to tolerate it is one of the most powerful things you can do. And in the previous podcast, we talked about writing about uncertainty and frequently reading this story of uncertainty. And the more that you read it, the less power the uncertainty will have. This way is more about being with it in our bodies. So let's think about just some cautions. Meditation can be powerful for people if they are disturbed by bad or sad memories and it becomes too much. Then they really need to stop meditating and probably need to seek some help. Go to the GP. Most local talking therapy service have a self-referral process, so look those details up and find a mental health professional and talk through these bad and sad experiences and hopefully find some way to be with them, to find peace with them. If you are able to stay with this meditation, then it might be something in your toolkit as a way to help with the uncertainty that worry might occur. So I think the next step is to practice. And you're curious?
I'm the guinea pig, yeah. I'm curious. Like I say, I like to exercise and work out, but like I say, the brain and kind of training that is a little bit further down the list.
Sure. And you know, that is one of the sort of pillars to mindfulness is curiosity. It's having almost like a childlike mind to go, gosh, I've never experienced this before. How interesting. Whereas adults, we kind of lose touch with that curiosity. So having an open mind, being curious is going to be really helpful. Okay, so let's get ready. And there's something about the posture of meditation. So the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is get both feet on the floor. So if you've got your legs crossed, uncross them, both feet on the floor. And then we're sitting on a chair doing this, and this is often the easiest way, is just sitting a little bit away from the back of your chair so that your back is supporting you rather than the chair. And if your back is supporting you, then it gives you an upright posture that's healthy for you. Now, if you've got back pain, you might want to just roll up a towel or something and put it in the arch of your back. If that's too much for you, then just use the chair. But if you can, be able to just sit a little bit away from the back of the chair. The next thing is putting your hands either on your knees, in your lap, whatever feels comfortable for you. And in this meditation, I'm going to close my eyes, and I'd encourage you to do so too. And the purpose of closing our eyes is that it just helps us concentrate. If we have our eyes open, then there's so much more information that our brains are taking in. So just closing our eyes cuts off all that information and frees up attentional resources to pay attention to this practice. So, beginning. Closing your eyes if you feel comfortable to do so. If not, just staring into the mid-distance on the floor or on the wall. And the first thing that I want you to pay attention to are the sensations that come with sitting. Notice where your body makes contact with the chair. And what are the sensations that come with sitting? And noticing how quick your mind goes to analysing. And it's not about good or bad sensations, just sensations. to move your attention to your breathing. Just observing the pattern of your breathing. Noticing that when you breathe in, your lungs fill, your rib cage expands. And then there's the contraction of your rib cage and your lungs empty and you breathe out. And for a few moments, just observing that rhythm of breathing, the inhale and exhale. Now I want you to move your attention to focusing on the breathing sensations that you have when you breathe in through your nose. And that might be at the tip of your nose, back of your nostril, back of your throat. So every time you breathe in through your nose, just focusing on those sensations. You might find, whilst you're focusing on these sensations, that your mind wanders, your attention wanders. Just make a note of where it went to, and then gently returning your attention to focusing on breathing in through your nose. Now on the next in-breath, breathing in and following your breath down into your lungs. Noticing how your lungs fill. And then empty as you breathe out. A mindful breath is one which is observed for its full duration. So when we breathe in through our nose, noticing the sensations that come with that, following the breath down into the lungs, noticing that feeling of expansion, followed by contraction as we breathe out, and noticing any sensations as we breathe out through our mouth or our nose. Now I want you to take 5 mindful breaths. Now I want you to bring to mind something that's been worrying you in recent days or recent weeks. Recall what you were worrying about, what concerned you. Thoughts and the images that go with this worry. And allowing the uncertainty that this worry created, that not knowing. And next, locating this uncertainty in your body. Might be in the pit of your stomach, the center of your chest, in your throat. Next, I want you to imagine this uncertainty moving outside of yourself, about a meter away from your tummy button. And next, I want you to explore this thing of uncertainty. What shape does it have? What colour is it? What's its texture? What's its temperature? Does it have a sound? Maybe see it as some alien planet. And remember, if this gets too much for you, then either stop the meditation or just return to focusing on your breathing. And when you feel strong enough, again returning to what your uncertainty looks like and sounds like. Now that you can see your uncertainty clearly, for a few moments I want you to breathe in and imagine your breath going down inside you, giving you strength and courage. And then coming out, say around your stomach or your chest, and going to this uncertainty. And allowing your breath to explore it, to touch it maybe, if you feel strong enough. Just spend a few moments exploring uncertainty with your breath. And each time you do explore it, see it as the first time, because it is in that moment. be curious. Now on the next in-breath, this takes some courage. Let your breath go down and attached to this uncertainty thing, and gently bringing it back towards your body. With each breath, just bringing it a bit closer and a bit closer. And now, taking it inside your body and finding a place for it to be. Allowing it to be there, even though there's a part of your mind that doesn't like it, doesn't want it, dreads it. However, we know that trying to get rid of it just increases it, because we worry more, because we don't achieve that certainty. And the solution is to learn to be with it. Spend some time allowing it to find its space and to rest there. This might be the first time that you've really sat with uncertainty, and it's the first step in learning to tolerate it, to be with it. Tolerating uncertainty can be a real strength, but it takes time and practice. Now letting go of focusing on your uncertainty and redirecting your attention back to your breathing. Again, just focusing on the rhythm of your breathing. Taking 5 more mindful breaths. Just observing a breath for its full duration. focusing on your breathing and just becoming aware of the space that you fill in this moment. Being in this moment. And noticing when we're being without judging, it can bring calm and peace. Now preparing for the end of this meditation, just gently opening your eyes into the next moment and adjusting your eyes gently to the light. Open your eyes, and that's the end of this practice. Now typically after a meditation we have something called the inquiry, which is to reflect on our experience. And if it's done in a group, then we ask each other what we experienced. If we're meditating on our own, then it can be wise to have a journal or a notebook and just make a note of the type of meditation we've done and what our experiences were, because that can help with the learning process. So as part of the inquiry, Caroline, what was your experience of that?
It's probably the first time I've actually done it as sort of intense as that, but I can imagine having 5-10 minutes before the kids get up and chaos starts. I can see the value of why people would do it. I know there is some people that I know that practice it nearly every day, and they say that the day's not set up without putting it in. So I can see with that calmness and just that 5 minutes, you can definitely understand why it's just difficult those first sort of 30 seconds, a minute to get into it.
Yeah, I think that's quite typical, and it's difficult to stay with just paying attention to something. How about, could you find some uncertainty? What was that like?
Yeah, and I think it's just kind of, clarity. You get that, just that little essence of clarity, whereas when your mind's dealing with so many other things, like I say, it's just that time to kind of, accept it.
Good. And could you visualise it outside you?
Yeah.
You're okay with saying what it looked like?
Yeah, it's a bit like a dream form, isn't it? It doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just kind of that, the chaos is taken out of that worry.
Yeah, okay.
So I can...
So you create something that you can now observe and make... Yeah, excellent.
It's a bit like an object, really. An object you can put to one side.
Okay, and then how easy or how difficult was it to bring it inside and make space for it?
Yeah, I can imagine, like you say, why it would take practice to do that.
It can be very challenging, I think, particularly when there's a big worry going on, where there's a lot of uncertainty and there's nothing you can do right now but sit with the uncertainty. It's challenging, but it is, a resource. But it does take practice.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit like what the podcast were talking about, this uncertainty and kind of parking it, accepting it and seeing it for what it is, and like say bringing that question, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? Gives you that sort of mind space to give that question.
And that's there's a sort of 3-question technique for worry, which is, what's the worst can happen? What's the best that can happen? What's the most likely to happen? Because invariably it's most likely that will happen. And I think if we get caught up in the worst case scenario thinking, that creates lots of uncertainty, lots of anxiety. We need to balance that book and go, okay, what's the best that can happen here? What's the most likely?
Yeah, it's an excellent, it's just another resource, it's another go-to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When we're struggling, and I think people are currently furloughed at the minute, or maybe they're taking time off because they're currently going through treatment and they've got that little bit time to kind of dedicate it. I would definitely recommend it, that this would be something.
Good. I'm pleased you've had a positive experience. That's good. And just to refresh, I would start with a breathing meditation to begin with, and really get that skill of paying attention to your breath. And then when you feel confident with that, then do the meditation we've done. Because I think, as I said at the beginning, it's an intermediate or advanced meditation, mainly because we're really going to something that's quite difficult, which is that uncertainty and the feelings around it. And if you're somebody who really struggles with uncertainty, it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, and I think it's a struggle when in this day and age, just like I say, we're constantly in chaos, we're constantly on the move. To actually take that investment of 5 minutes, I can understand you'll get a lot from it, I can imagine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Peter. That's been really useful. Thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me.